So welcome everybody. Thank you very much for jumping on. Got a great show lined up. We've obviously got Pete, who walks the bricks, and he's always got his finger on his nimbus. We've got David from Fraser, who is an expert. He's born and bred in Manchester. He knows it very well. And we've got Tony. Now, I'm really particularly interested, and it's a first for us. Tony's actually in project management. So please get your questions in at the bottom of the screen if you've got any questions relating to project management and how it all fits together. So we do these every so often. We invite mortgage brokers on, developers on, companies that set up companies to put your properties on. So we're going to have a really good show today. We're looking at Manchester. David, welcome. Welcome to
Thank you very much,
show.
Chris.
And first of all, Pete, let's have it here. Where have you been? What have you been doing in your Ford Anglia?
Yeah, I've been doing some traveling. It's really interesting. The whole of the Northwest is still showing really good signs of growth, not just Manchester. I will just hasten to add, Preston is showing really good activity, and that's something we'll talk about very soon, hopefully. The market has changed in our favour. There's no two ways about it. We're seeing increased levels of activity. We're seeing a lot more wealth managers understanding that the fundamentals have gone in our favor. In other words, we can expect to see the interest rates drop. Indeed, they already have. The big six mortgage companies have second guessed that we've now reached the maximum. We're now on a slide, and they keep on dropping the rates, irrespective of the Bank of England, who are, in my opinion, rather slow off the mark. So that's all good news. We are seeing mortgage rates now acceptable levels. So when we're doing the financial illustrations, they're now looking a lot more sensible. The one thing I would say to you, and I'm sure that Tony will back me up on this, there's not a great deal of finished stock out there. The big opportunity you lucky people have got is very much that Tony has delivered finished stock, and only because an individual client decided not to go ahead on a bulk purchase have we got this opportunity. Please don't think we're being salesy when we say, do not miss out on this opportunity. We've got to understand that once these units are gone, I know of no other stock that's currently ready, live, that you can purchase at these levels. So it is entry-level stock, good location. And over to you, perhaps, just for a second, Tony, because let me just give a couple of words. Tony's lived with this project for 6 years. So he's one of the parents of it, really, and his children are all ready to be sold. So over to you, Tony.
That's a very good analogy, actually, Pete, and it's one that I refer to when I talk about some of my projects. It's like giving birth and then raising children through the most difficult years, the early years. So my name's Tony Connor. I'm the head of development and projects at Awal Investment. I'm not only the development manager, but also the construction manager for this particular project. I've been in construction and project management for 35 years. This was our second project that we purchased in Manchester back in 2018. Went through the issues to deal with debt legacy when you're buying any property that's 140 years old, and has had multiple different uses over the time. But the standout for this particular property was that it's an absolute landmark building. The frontage is 130 meters long. I've done a lot of skyscrapers in the Middle East over the years, and I always refer to it as like a skyscraper on its side, because it's so beautiful. It's got all of those heritage aspects about it that you hope for. We've got a community space just off of the main reception, which is 12 meters high, and old money, that's about 36, 37 feet high. That's given over to the community as a community hub for people to be able to come together and utilize the space there, and to be able to do some work from there, to be able to meet with other members of the community. That is Meadow Mill. We anticipate there'll be somewhere between 500 to 600 residents there once it's fully occupied. At the moment, we're about 60% occupied there with the completions that have happened so far. Rental has been very robust. We had one bulk buyer complete on their units just last Thursday, so a week ago, just over a week ago. And the agent that they employed had rented 65% of those properties before they'd actually completed on them. So we have those people being moved in, and they're completing on the other rentals now. So there's no void space here. It's a highly attractive rental product. You've got 3.5 meter high ceilings in all of the apartments, all of those brick features that people want to see from a heritage product, all mixed in with all the modern fixtures and fittings that we go with there. We're a Duvet and Hansgrohe dealer in the Middle East, so we only put really quality sanitary ware products into our projects. We've been dealing with the same Italian manufactured kitchen company for over 20 years. So all the kitchens came direct from Italy, all pre-assembled, and were installed by local joiners. So the product is very high. Everybody is made up whenever they go in and look at the apartments, and like I say, and that's driving really strong rentals.
Thanks a lot. That's good.
Can I just say I've done a little bit of work on the rentals last night. It's really interesting that when you look at Stockport, it's in my opinion, it's better than some of the inner areas of inner Manchester. And I've done some work on Nimbus last night. A couple of the areas, and I'm not going to mention exactly where, but a couple of the areas are showing signs of being overpriced and becoming slightly unloved. And I think what Stockport's got going for it is, and I'm sure so you Tony will have backed me up on this, is it's so close to the stations. You got Stockport station only a mile away, Heaton station only 1.2 miles away. You're literally less than 400 yards away from being able to jump on the M60 into Manchester, and it's sort of 7 miles as a crow flies into Manchester. It's not long. In actual fact, people quite like having a 10-15 minute journey into work because they sort of prepare themselves as they go in rather than being right on the doorstep. And one or two of the projects that are, in my opinion, have been oversold in inner Manchester are not as good as this. So although it might be an entry point level, personally, I think it's more assured on the potential capital growth over the next 5 or 6 years. And as we always say, property is a medium-term investment, not a get-rich-quick scheme. Sorry for butting in there.
No, those are all really good anecdotes for that particular property as well, Pete. We've got again, we've seen nearly a 20% growth in capital value of those properties in the 3 years since we started the construction there. So that's been really positive, and that's grown year on year. Why did we buy in Stockport? At the time it was just been allocated £1 billion in government funding for regeneration of the city itself, and I would say that they spent probably at least 500 or 600 million of that in the last 3 years since we've been fully in the construction cycle with Meadow Mill. We've got great transport links into Manchester, as you said. Is that actually there's a mandate that goes back to the 1800s that every train that goes to Manchester Piccadilly has to stop in Stockport. So it's not like when you go to London, you get different train stops on the journey to shorten the journey. Every train has to stop in Stockport before it arrives at Manchester, and vice versa on the way out. It's something to do with the historic viaduct that they built there to facilitate that. We have the largest Tesco in the region, Tesco Extra, they call them, opposite our site. And so shopping is right on your doorstep. But the good thing about that is that there's also a free bus that goes from there between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Every day that goes from there to the town centre, to the new interchange that's just opened there. And that gets people to the station in a couple of minutes if they don't want the walk, through the retail and through up past the marketplace and the underbanks, which are all again really well resourced with independent traders, independent foodies. It's a great foodie place if you like your food to go and visit as well. Just a 10-minute walk from Meadow Mill. We've got Reddish, which is the largest Reddish Vale, which is the largest country park in the region. Across the street from us, you can literally walk out of your out of your apartment across the street, and you've got 10 kilometers of open land there. So if you like a jog or a run or a dog walk or anything like that, then those things are right on your doorstep. You don't have to travel to get to those as well. So leisure-wise, that's coming forward. One of the commercial units downstairs looks like it's going to go to a restaurant bar concept, independent again. Really strong numbers from that particular business that are going to come and occupy.
There is a health warning, Tony. It is less than 200 yards away from a Greg's. So if you're a bit of a pie monster, it could be dangerous.
Well, inside there, because it's the largest Tesco Extra in the region, you get a lot of the concessions in there as well. So yeah, Greg's being one of them. But you've also got the dry cleaners, you've got the shoe repair guy, the key guy, the chemist, all of those things as well, part of the Tesco Extra, and they're right there on the doorstep.
I mean, I got to say, it's for me very impressive. It was interesting because somebody in a high position within Holborn, so it looks a little bit like a prison. I said, well, no, I don't think it does look like a prison. I think if you've got a heritage building, if you look at some of the modern blocks, the square blocks that so many developers are now building, to me, they're going to be the prisons of the future. I actually think that the character inside these buildings is really worth saving. So you get a bit of a heart and a soul with these buildings. Some of these modern buildings, in my opinion, are soulless. So, you know, this is going to stand the test of time. It's going to be a great property. It's got very strong yields. And just to flick on to the yields for a second, we saw 11.1% yield increase last year. We're anticipating to see a 7%, circa 7% yield increase this year. It will then tail off a little bit. It can't carry on growing like that. But what you're then going to see is that the cap values will increase slightly, because as the mortgage rates come down, it was interesting. I was reading Property Week last night because I don't have a life, and they're saying that the yields are sharpening because the market is out there buying yield at the moment. They know yields are going to contract purely because there's not a great deal of stock. The mortgage rates are going to come down. So therefore, we will be able to afford to have a lower yield. And the yields are pretty strong in this location. So it's got the fundamentals in the right place. And to me, you've got to have a bit of all of the fundamentals. But you can't have the penny in the bun. You can't continually have increase in rents and continual increases in capital growth. It tends to be either a blend of the two or one's outperforming the other, but you can't have them all.
I would agree with you there, Pete. I've just had one caveat though, that as I say, because of the geographic location, we talk about that a lot, obviously, on property. We because of the high demand, because of the growth in Stockport itself, it's kind of a bit of a super suburb of Manchester, in that it's outperforming others in terms of that growth. It was voted in the Times the best place to live in the Northwest just 2 weeks ago. If you want to get onto Google and look up that Times article, again, it talks about all of the good things there. And what does that do? It just drives people to either move there to live there, or for people that live there to stay there. And as you mentioned in your opening words, there is the available stock in in Stockport is very limited, and because of that, as I say, we've seen higher than expected rentals, which has then given very good yields to those investors that have come in as a buy-to-let renter investor there at Meadow Mill.
Tony, Pete, can I just jump in here? As is my wont. David, you've got some interesting slides come up, and a lot of what Pete and Tony have been saying, I know is in those slides because I looked at them earlier on. But do you want to just run through so people can actually see in writing what's going on there? You're born and bred Manchester, so you know it well.
Yeah, I can only echo what Pete and Tony have said. I mean, I've seen the transformation from I suppose I went to school in Manchester. I went to university. Well, it's Polytechnic at the time, now Manchester Metropolitan University. So I've seen the transformation. The first area was over in Salford Quays. You know, when people started buying in Salford Quays in the late 80s, we were like, well, why? But the transformation in Manchester has been incredible, and yeah, it remains a great place to be. Stockport I know very well. Part of my family are from Cheadle and Stockport around there. So, and again, we've seen the development of the shopping centre there, which has been superb over the last 20 years. And as I think Tony just said, that it's considered to be one of the best places to live currently. So it's good. Manchester as a whole, still relatively cheap to live. You can see there it's 31% cheaper to live than London. We're seeing the rents in Meadow Mill coming in at sort of beginning at sort of 700, 750 a month, which is reasonable at the moment. I mean, I live and breathe rental property, and to get two people to be able to live there. And I think Pete said, there's some areas which are overcooked. I mentioned Salford Quays. You've got areas, historical areas like Didsbury, which has always been sort of media tight, and there's a lot of media that goes on in Salford. And then you've got the sort of the golden semicircle under Manchester, footballer country, which is bisected by the airport. So you've got Wilmslow and Audley Edge on one side, you've got Hale and Bowden on the other. Really, really hyper expensive areas. I rue the day I sold my house in Hale. But yeah, so that's Manchester as a whole, and we can't see it slowing down. Yet yields are high. So this is Meadow Mill. I think Tony said, yeah, it's a skyscraper on its side. Was it in fairly good nick, Tony? That was a question that I mean, it's a solid building. It's about 150 years old, is it? I think.
Yeah, just under actually, David. So it had its 140th birthday last year. So it was built in. It was built in 1883 by a very prominent mill owner, T&J Lee, at the time for this area. This was their flagship mill, so they spent a lot more money than you would normally spend on what was effectively a factory of the time, in the embellishments around the entrance. So all of the carved stonework has been brought back to life. Is that over the years it had lost a lot of the character in that front entryway. We worked with a specialist heritage window manufacturer to create 11-meter high window in the front there, which spans across 3 floors, which is absolutely stunning. So the arrival is amazing, and you come into this reception with this York stone, which is it's as old as time, and but it's like almost half a foot thick, and comes in these big slabs. We lifted all of those and we relayed those sympathetically to suit the new levels in that particular area as well. So yeah, it's got a lot of really a lot of heritage, David, and I think that what you just mentioned there about the proximity to the airport is really important as well. Airports have a lot of people working at them, and what I've noticed being around the building since the first lettings is that we have air crew from quite a few of the different airlines that operate out of Manchester Airport, staying with us, because part of that £1 billion that was being spent by the local authority on infrastructure for Stockport was a new bypass that allowed the journey from Stockport town centre to the airport to be cut to just 10 minutes by introducing a new road to the network. So again, proximity for those guys. It's about 12 minutes we're on the other side of the city centre, so it's about 12 minutes by road from the car park to the airport. So we're getting a lot of traction, and through word of mouth, a lot more inquiries from people working there at Manchester Airport.
Yeah, and it's the good old A34, and I think it's back in my day, and it's where I started my career. And if I was looking at a bulk purchase of this, a lot of the airlines, certainly from my experience, will take on these instead of paying out for hotels. Obviously they're constrained by costs. they will rent a number of apartments as serviced apartments for their crew. And I've been knocking on their doors saying, well, I've got half a dozen of these that just for you to have available. I think it's 12 minutes into to the airport from there by train. So it's absolutely ideal.
Really
I've got a
good
question
point
just
there as
come
well.
straight in there, Dave.
This is a wonderful property for a bulk purchase for people that want either 4 or 6 units or more. But it's a great location to have, a portfolio builder, as we call it. You can start this being the cornerstone of a property portfolio.
I've got a question just come in, David, about prices and rentability, that sort of thing. So, and Tony, you mentioned earlier on, okay, most of them have sold. There's only about 58 left. Is that right? Because they came back on again. What's the demographics of that when it comes to price? I've just got questions coming on my phone.
Yeah, they've all been sold actually. It's only the fact that this one bulk buyer has asked to withdraw that we have this opportunity for these 58 units, but otherwise all of the others are still progressively completing. So the building has been fully sold for some time. It's just this, like I say, this withdrawal, and the other units are being completed on at the moment.
I think just to jump in there, I think one of the stats that I saw, and I think from an investor point of view, that there's a ratio of 15 to 85% owner occupied to tenant. So from an investor, and we obviously operate out of London, out of Paddington Basin, which itself is a massive regeneration area, has been. And from an investor, and I'm an investor, you'd say, will I be competing against other investors? And I think that the reason I asked about the quality of the building is that will always come through. If you've got the demand there, the tenants will gravitate towards a quality product. We see it here in Paddington, where you've got hundreds and hundreds of units, which are all very well built. And I don't think there's going to be, and it's interesting that whoever said it, was that someone has already rented 65% of them before they were even completed. So I think demographic wise, you're in the young professional. So I would probably put something like this at 25 to 40-year-old market, something like that. I don't know whether Tony would have a view on that necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a fair assessment, David. And I think that the other thing that's good to know for investors is that we're still there on the site. I have a team there on the site that deals with the handovers, deals with any snagging issues that come up during the handover process that inevitably come up. So we're represented on the site still. We have a team there of a project coordinator and a maintenance and snagging team there. In addition to that, there's a concierge that's operational from 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. So there's good opportunity for interaction with the property management team if anybody's got any questions on that.
I've got a very pertinent question, very pertinent from Kieran, because this is what's just happened. What is the risk to a buyer who buys, commits, and then another bulk buyer comes in and swashes the whole thing away, and therefore the client loses out? How is that protected? And it's something that has happened recently.
I can answer that from our perspective as the developer. We work in a very particular manner in terms of ethics and policy. We warrant and stick by reservations. So as soon as somebody has reserved that property and put over their reservation fee, we issue the contracts to their solicitors the next day. So once that has happened, then
they've got it.
Investment opportunity is secured. So,
okay, so they don't have to wait till exchange of contracts then. As soon as they paid their res fee and the paperwork's in, Kieran, there we go. I've got another
Very
question
good,
just come
very
in.
good question from Kieran, and a really good answer. So thank you for that.
I've got another question in here. Can you just tell us a bit more about the actual apartments, the prices, and what sort of sizes they are?
Yeah, I've got, I mean, sort of key points here. So capital prices are slightly over 150,000. So the rents there, yields, service charges, obviously relevant. And again, Tony mentioned, yeah, and we had it on the slide, that you've got concierge service, but still relatively low service charges for those who maybe not. You know, in London, we generally look at £7 to £9 per square foot per annum. So at £3, I think it's looking remarkable value actually. And again, sizes ranging from 328 to 930. So those are the key points there for you.
We've got a full price list, by the way, anybody that's on, and a brochure, obviously. So yeah, thanks for that, David. What's your next slide?
Next slide is the end of it. So that was pretty
short and
much
sweet.
it. Yeah, exactly. So I'll stop sharing for now, but I can go back to it if you'd like me to.
Anybody got any other questions? Please let them come in. I've got a question that's just come in on my phone. What do they get? What's in there? We mentioned the beautiful bathrooms from Italy. What else is in there?
Yeah, the bathrooms are German actually, Duravit and Hans Grohe, so they're really good medium to top range brands. With the Italian kitchens, they come ready fitted with white goods, so you've got a built-in fridge freezer, you've got a built-in washing machine. We have the oven, the induction hood, the induction hob, and then the hood. I think one of the key things today as amenities for renters and property owners is future-proofing internet connections. So again, we invested in that. We are the only large apartment building in Stockport at the moment with fibre to the apartment.
I'm just going to interrupt quickly. Erin, are you there? And if you are, can you share the brochure? Somebody's just come in and said, can I have a look at this brochure and the flat? So Erin, if you're there, please share. Sorry, carry on. Sorry.
No issue. So we're actually fibre to the apartment, which means that we have gigabit capability there. We're not tied into a single ISP either. You find that some developers, they do a deal with BT or Virgin or the like. We did the opposite. We wanted it to be open. So there's currently 16 different ISPs that can provide different plans and pricing, different connection speeds depending upon what your needs are. A lot of us are working from home these days as well as going into the office, so you need to be able to have that reliable connection, and you certainly have it at Meadow Mill.
I was just going to say, looking at these pictures, actually, Pete's comment, whoever thought this looked like a prison clearly haven't seen Strange Ways, but this is a good looking
ceilings and the brickwork there are just absolutely, these images don't do them justice actually, but they are absolutely stunning to have, and because of the high ceilings, you have high windows as well, so you have really light and airy rooms. We invested in literally the state-of-the-art aluminium and glass technology to bring them there in a heritage format. So we had to go through multiple different samplings of style to be able to satisfy the heritage requirement. It's a Grade 2 listed building, so it's got strong interest in the local heritage from the local authority there. So we made all of the windows acoustic there. So even though we're close to transport links and things like that, is that when you're in your apartment, you're in your own home, then all you can hear is what's going on in your apartment.
And it's not listed, Tony. There's no mention of that, so I'm assuming not. But no listing issues there.
No, none at all. What the internal fabric is yours to do with as you please. Their main things was because it's such a landmark building at 130 meters frontage facing Stockport. It's one of the most recognisable buildings in the 10 boroughs of Manchester. They were very keen on the externals there and how the externals appear, and that's what we've delivered on there.
Erin, just for fun, can you put the prices up as well? Sorry, carry on talking, Tony. I think it looks great. I think it looks like, if it was a prison, then I don't mind going anytime soon. Oh, there we are. There we go. So, no, that's good. Look, all the information is on our website, which is Holborn propertyinvestments.com. And this fantastic award-winning show will be on there as well. So the person that's asked the most questions is called Anonymous. So I'm hoping that Anonymous is going to thank you, Erin. Anonymous has been invited by a wealth manager. If not, just get in touch with us direct and we can put you in touch, send you the brochures, etc. But that's good. So Pete, looks like you want to say something.
There's a great spread of prices on there as well, and I think in particular, I'm looking at some of the 2 and the 3 bedroom units. I think they're exceptional value. Certainly when you look at some of the prices now in inner Manchester, I personally think they're getting too high. Some of those developments are now getting up to £600 a square foot, £650 a square foot. To me, that's frothy. I think this is really good value. And most of the people that we serve are looking for investment value stock. I don't think you'll do any better than this. And especially the entry level makes it very, very helpful. And I'm sure that our mortgage people would be able to assist you with this. Please funnel everything through Chris. Can I also say that Chris has got a great knowledge on property, and he can help make sure that we give the right answers. And when I say that, the truthful answers. We had a situation yesterday where one of our opposition, who will remain nameless, basically some of the information they were giving was not far short of criminal. We operate an honesty policy. We try to give best advice. We don't put things forward that have got weevils in them, as I call it, the old biscuit weevils. So I think you can all feel really assured that this is a great product, good price point, great developer. It's attention to detail. So, I recommend this to the house.
Thank you, Pete. And the other thing, and you're absolutely right. One thing, anybody that's been on a meeting with me or anybody listening to this, always get a pre-approval from your mortgage broker. Yeah, if you're in Dubai, if you're in South Africa, a lot of our offices are down in South Africa, Southeast Asia, depending what your job is, your age is, your marriage, obviously if you're employed, self-employed, makes so much difference. And it's so good to get an offer in principle from an expert, and we've got experts who will say, yeah, given your circumstances, all things being equal, we will be able to lend you 65% and the interest rate is going to be 6.5%. That's what you need before you go any further. And I know it's not the most exciting part of the operation, but anyway, those prices are up there for you to look at. We've got other stock I'm bound to say this, aren't I? We've got other stock in Manchester. And this is just so different. It's so compelling. I personally like an old building and living in Dubai. It's good, isn't it? So if you compare this with other stock, I know the guys have been saying this all the way through, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you compare this with anything else, and you're 7 miles into Manchester, so you can see 2 of the greatest football clubs in England, Manchester City and Stockport County. So
I was just about to say thanks for not mentioning the result last night, which is just cost me 20 quid this morning with.
Oh yeah, good old Rob. Good old Rob. Yeah, I bet he's got his hand out. That's why he's in the office. Yeah. Anyway, any more questions? Anonymous has gone quiet. I know who Anonymous is now, but anyway, look, it's compelling. It's great. Thank you guys for coming on the show. I'm going to invite you back because I really enjoyed doing that. That was great fun. And David and Tony, your knowledge is unbelievable. And I think, Tony, we didn't get into it because we like to wrap these up in 40 minutes. But, I wanted to ask, right, okay, we've had COVID, we've had what's gone on in the Ukraine war. How did that impact your job? It must have been so difficult to navigate that.
Well, it was a real challenge. So literally, you couldn't write it we started the conversion element of the project on the 2nd of March 2020, and literally 3 weeks later, that was when our first lockdown came on the 23rd of March. So we had to kind of stop operations, come to terms like everybody was with what was happening daily on the news, understand what the issue was and how infectious that particular disease was and the risks. We had to then reconfigure all of our works with the different tradespeople to not be working in the same places at the same time, to have separate wash facilities and sanitation requirements. We had to change the times that everybody took breaks or had lunch, things like that. And then
and also the raw materials. I mean, Pete's an expert on raw materials. I don't know where he gets his information from, but
it's because I'm a tradesman originally. So when I'm down here, and as Tony would tell you, if you're a PM, project manager on any job, the one thing you want is surety of prices. And the one thing that Tony didn't have was surety of prices. Steel went up 69%. Lumber, timber, that is, went 55% up. You couldn't get stock even if you wanted it. And so therefore, navigating those is an art form. I would suggest that, you know, Houdini would have suffered just as much of getting out of one of his situations as Tony did, getting both the product and also bear in mind the constrictions within construction. You know, I'm not being funny, but you try wearing a bloody mask inside a building when you're doing work. It doesn't work. It's bad enough wearing hard hats.
Everything slows down, Pete, and then obviously it becomes then very difficult to manage from a programming point of view. But you know, I have a mantra, and the mantra is that projects are won or lost in the procurement.
Absolutely.
So that served us well here. We've done our homework. We've done our procurement in the period pre-COVID. So we pretty much had fixed prices in terms of the product, but then in terms of deliverability, as we all know, that there were issues then with transportation costs skyrocketing. I was paying 6 or 7 times the pre-COVID rate to get a truck to bring kitchens from Italy to Manchester, to paying 8 or 9 times for a container to move across the seas as well. So we absorbed all of those costs, and I think in retrospect, it probably cost us about 15% more to deliver the project. But we did that while so many others weren't able to kind of shoulder those additional challenges. And our relationships with the contractors, I've always had a thing about placing as much work as I can in the local community, because
Absolutely.
I think that you get a lot more out of that, both from a holistic viewpoint, but also from the people that are there. So we were able to work with the guys who were local there, who were having much bigger problems on other projects than they were having on ours. So we just worked around it with them, and together we brought the scheme to its fruition. It's always a cast of thousands.
Just one last question. Somebody's come in and said they've got a client looking to build a small portfolio. Is there any wiggle room? Well, I'm going to answer that. There's always wiggle room, but speak to us, speak to Pete, and we will sort something out.
What I would suggest to you, please don't. It's good advice to give to your clients as well. There's a misconception that there's absolutely stacks of money in these developments. That's not true. Margins within construction are tight. So please don't think in just because you're going to buy 4 or 6 apartments, you can go and get 10% off. It doesn't work that way. Wriggle room, yes, but that's all it is. It's wriggle room. It's not massive. The margins are skinny. They really are. Especially when you spend 15% more because of COVID and Brexit and those other fallout things. So that converted to an additional £3 million investment from us. As a final note from me, can I just say, please, if you are interested in this project, don't sit on your hands. It's not going to be around for long. It's not a great deal of units. It's only 58. They're gonna fly off the shelves because they will, because there is no other finished stock. So I highly recommend you say to your clients, please try and move on it. We had a situation a short while ago. Chris was dealing with a particular wealth manager that they were being very diligent, asking lots of questions. And then by the time they actually got to make the decision, that unit had gone. They then came back and they wanted another unit of a similar size and location. And again, we said, look, please make your mind up. That was on a Thursday. Guess what? On Saturday, it sold. And so when you look at these units, in particular, when it's the unit that you want, there's not lots of 3-beds. Somebody wants a 3-bed, then be decisive. You know, please put your best foot forward as quickly as you can. Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed. And so will your client be.
Thanks, Pete, for that. Looks like the weather looks like it's going to rain over your head, by the way, Pete. Everybody, thank you very much. Enjoyed that. Lots of information, lots of facts. Holborn Property Investments is .com is the website, and we've got other stock from Fraser's as well. If you fancy a bit of London, fancy a bit of Birmingham, fancy a bit of Scotland, York, we've got them all. So please reach out. Thank you.